everybody. Welcome to Trainer Merlin Show. It is your Friday edition, the weekend edition, which means I'm on point today. I made sure to bring a glass of whiskey on the program today. So cheers, everybody. Happy Friday. I look like the guy in the picture there. Finally got my facial hair back, I guess. I need to wear that funky suit maybe for the 1000 show with a bow tie. Yeah, show 999 today. All right, I'm good with that. I'm good with show 999. Just seems kind of crazy. I think I've done like 2,400, 2,500 shows for Power Training Radio. So this will be like the 3,500th show that I've done. Pretty crazy. Nothing special planned yet, but we'll see. Maybe I'll bring a guest on and we'll kibitz about the markets, etc. on Monday. So cheers to all of you and happy Friday. So let's dive right into it. I have this picture here of Elon Musk in one of his robot suits, not looking so happy. Looks a little bit smug. I'm not sure if anybody here really saw the Robo event. I did. I watched it. Got the highlights as well and watched it again just to see if I could take anything out of it. And if you notice what happened today with Tesla shares, I see here that John says, I'm the proud owner of some Tesla shares come Monday. I may be the proud owner of some Tesla shares come Friday, next Friday. I sold some puts today. I sold quite a few puts today on Tesla at the 210 strike for next Friday. Again, this is a long-term thing. When we look at the event itself, what happened out there at this Tesla event, not a lot of positive pieces to it. Not a lot of, it really, I don't know. I'll explain as I go along, but I think we all have an idea of what a futuristic Robotaxi might look like. If you want a great version of one, look at the movie The Fifth Element with, who was that with? That was with Bruce Willis and Mila Jovovich, I believe, The Fifth Element. Great movie. Fantastic, but very futuristic, and they had these really cool little robo-taxis. I thought that's what these things would look like. And when I think of a taxi, I think of something that can move multiple people around. I was really kind of disappointed to see this, this is what I would expect something like to look like, right? I asked AI to create me a Tesla taxi van. And I think this would kind of be what it would look like, right? Robotaxi would maybe have, 6, 8 people per taxi, small footprint, just gets around, no real need for upfront driver space. This is what I envision as a robotaxi, especially for you British folks out there. Your taxis look kind of odd as well. But this is what we got. This looks like, Total Recall, another good one, Oliver, absolutely. This one here, this looks like a sports car. And why would you make a taxi with 2 doors? If anything, there should be a 4-door vehicle so you can get more and more passengers with suicide doors so you can get in cargo and merchandise and stuff. I was really just strangely disappointed here because this is what it looks like. So really, there is no back seat at all. It's just a giant trunk space, which is cool. But you have just 2 seats up front, and here's your view from the cockpit. They look nice, but it's 2 people. So what if Johnny Cab, that's right, from Total Recap. I think that's what I was thinking of, Big Ed, the Johnny Cab. I mean, if I'm an investor at Tesla, I'm pretty disappointed that this is what you wanted as your taxi. Like, why not give me 4 seats and make them bench seats so I can fit 6 people in there comfortably, and you'd still have that space. There's no need for the big front end on this. I was really surprised, and I think a lot of other people were. Notice today we had Tesla down at one point well over 8%. I finished down around 8%. I'll show you that chart here right now. I think it closed at 217. So 217, again, I have the 210 puts. So let me, I sold the 210 puts. Let me just put that line on the screen here just because, there it is. And the reason I chose the 210, it's below this giant red candle right here where it kind of lifted off. I think this is all anticipation of the Robotaxi event. So I'm okay at 210. I do think there's a pretty good potential for it to drop down to 185, which, again, I might be okay with that. The taxi, Lori, I couldn't agree with you more. I think the taxi does look worthless. It looks like a cool sports car. Like if this is, I don't know, a cool sports car, but doesn't really say taxi to me. So he then proceeded to bring out the next iteration of this, which isn't really a robo-taxi. They call it Robovan. You guys have heard him call this Robovan. It's not a robo-van, is how it's spelled. It's called the Robovan. Now, this thing looks much more like a taxi, but more like a minibus, actually. You look inside here, it can hold up to 20 people. It pulled up at the presentation. These guys all piled out of it. I think this is great. I think this is going to be fantastic for congested cities where we have buses. I think this will basically replace a bus. And you'll have a lot more of these with a lot more flexibility, I think, than a bus. A bus kind of can't turn down certain streets, although I do think that this is a little large. It was a pretty darn big looking thing when it pulled up on stage. But, yeah, interesting. Okay. I'm hearing that most taxis are single riders from Ken, 90%. Oh, wow. Maybe. And I definitely have taken Ubers by myself, but there's got to be an option for 4 people. I've taken cabs many times when I go to events with friends and we'll do a pub crawl or something. It's like, hey, all 4 of us are going to get in. Maybe this just forces people to break up into 2s and have 2 cab. It's just, I guess my concern or disappointment is if you're going to build a taxi that's designed to move people around, you don't really have to have a front seat facing forward. If it's a fully autonomous vehicle, you could have the seats facing each other, so you and your guests can face each other, and there's no need to look out the windshield. It's driving it, so who cares what the windshield looks like? And that's where this Robovan was different, because this was a window you could not see through on the front side of this, so great. Going to be great for cargo. You mean this one? I don't think that they would be selling these Robovans, maybe. I imagine it's going to be much smaller. They actually talked about that this was going to be what was driving around and in circulation. These would be very cool for cargo. And I envision cities that are pretty congested with big trucks like San Francisco, right? This would be a pretty interesting delivery van concept. Just take these seats out and now you have a van that you can load all your cargo in real quick and easy. Pretty cool. Now, people are probably wondering, well, why did it tank so much today? Why did we see Tesla with this big gap down? I mean, that's a pretty big disappointment. And you would think, having unveiled this and really kind of talking about the future and the rollout, that it would have been a positive piece for Tesla. Well, it is, but if you listen to the talk track from Elon Musk, even he said, I tend to get a little bit optimistic with the time frames, and then he said they'll have the fully implemented autonomous vehicles in California and Texas by 2026. He said no later than 2027. And I was like, well, that's 2 years out. I'm surprised to hear that. I think a lot of people are disappointed about that because the influx of demand is not going to happen until much further down the road than I think a lot of people anticipated. I being one of them. I still extremely bullish on Tesla, but now you have this kind of couple-year runtime till we can actually get these things fully implemented on the road. Somewhat disappointing. So I'm still okay selling puts on Tesla, collecting premium. The premium I got was about 1.5% for 7 days. I'm okay with that. I'm like 1.5%, and I'll get to get some Tesla shares if it drops at 210. So cheers. Either way, I'm fine with my rate of return. All right. The third component. So we had the Robotaxi, in my opinion, huge disappointment. You had the Robovan, which I think is pretty cool. I like the styling of it. I think it's pretty cool, and I could envision a fleet of these. I would actually think that these might be much smaller, where you have like 6 to 8 passengers, not 20. Not here in LA, you get to reconfigure the infrastructure with electric power. Yeah, that would certainly take a lot of work. And we've talked about that, Oliver, is like we're all expecting these electric vehicles to be everywhere, and presidents are saying it's going to be implemented by 2030, no more petrol burning vehicles. Well, it's going to take a time to build up that infrastructure, and if we're all using that much more electricity, we need to think about ways to generate that much power. People are going, oh, wind and solar. The one thing I have not seen them do, which I thought was rather interesting, was on the roof of something like the Robovan. Why isn't this entire structure a solar collector? Like, it just seems strange to me that the Teslas and all these electric vehicles haven't figured a way to take whatever the outer shell is, aluminum, steel, fiberglass, whatever you're going to make it, and then just layer it with solar panels. Now, it may not gather as much as needed, but certainly would have a little bit of an impact on your vehicle. And you look at this one, there's a lot of surface area that could be, solar panels and generate a little bit more electricity, and that may help out at some point. Oliver, I'm with you. I think nuclear is the way to go. I know we've had some horrific incidents with nuclear power in the past, but I think we've gotten much better at understanding them, containment, systems in place. I think nuclear is certainly the way to go, but hey, who might have talked? All right, so those are your first two. I would say one, in my opinion, was a disappointment, which is the Robotaxi. The Robovan, I thought was kind of cool. I'm not going to say I was super excited, but I think it's cool. The third element is where I was really excited for, and that is the robots, which is why I made the graphic for today, because I feel like the general consensus was, meh, no big deal. And here's the issue. If you go back to last year, you had a human in that same suit walking around on stage pretending he's a robot. This year, you actually had robots walking around the audience, shaking hands and interacting and playing, pouring beers and doing things like that. Those were automated tasks. Where everyone got irritated and analysts slammed them for this, which is why I think you saw the big drop, was because they've been touting all this AI and how this robot can function autonomously and give it some tasks, it'll do it. They were interacting with these robots, and if you listen to the conversations these robots are having, it's pretty clear that there's somebody in a room back at corporate or just down the hall he can see the robot, he can see out the eyes, he's got a screen that sees everything the robot sees, and he's got a microphone, and clearly they're talking into it, responding to people's questions and things like that. So I thought that was kind of a bummer, and most of the people slammed them for that, which again is why you got this almost 9% drop today. So what? In my mind, when I saw that, yes, I'm disappointed, but I think you'd all agree, so what? You've gone from a man in a suit to a full walking robot that doesn't have the AI plugged in yet, but I'm pretty sure that by next year, you will have full-on integration of AI, and we may see this for sale at the tail end of next year. So to me, I was actually pleasantly surprised with these robots. A lot of people were slamming Tesla, how stupid they were, blah, blah, blah. Look, nobody else has got them to that level where we're actually walking around interacting. I guess that's not true. There are other companies that have robotic humanoid robots, but Tesla is making the full-on push. And as Big Eb says there, the robots are like 20 to 30 grand. I say BS to that. There's no way Tesla's going to roll out that robot, the first of its kind, a humanoid droid that you can use in your home for 20 to 30 grand. My guess is you're probably looking at 50 to 60 grand. But I'll be honest, Big Eb, even at 50 to 60 grand, I'm buying one. I'm going to program my robot to do all the extra work I have to do for this show that I don't want to do. The switching, the uploading, the editing, the microphones, the lights, turn everything on. My robot's going to do all that for me, plus do my dishes and everything else. So Kenny says, in 2 years, your producer, Mavera, will be one of these robots pulling up charts. Exactly, Kenny. I just said. I love it. You're ahead of me. Yeah, absolutely. I'm in it. And I think that people got a little bit over-optimistic about what Tesla could deliver in a short period of time. Look, they're doing a lot of crazy things that have never been done before. So I say cheers to Elon Musk and his teams, because there's certainly multiple teams in place doing this. I really kind of surprised at that Robotaxi, but hey, I'm not the one that started the company, so cheers to them and good for them. They were doing the robot when the dancing started. Yes, that was pretty funny. I saw that, the little robot dance. So all in all, I think this Tesla event was pretty good. They built a little virtual city. You could drive things around. I wish I was there. What does it mean for the price long term? Well, I'll tell you what. You look at the trend and where we're at with Tesla right now, it really has not been the greatest last couple of years. It hasn't done much. Now, yes, we've had some pretty big swings, but granted, I do love the fact we're showing higher lows. We double topped here about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, pulling back towards the demand zone. That's why I like the 210. If we hit the 210 level and continue on up, which what I think will happen, great. We'll break that 260. You got an ascending triangle. That would put your target on this thing probably close to $500 on this on Tesla. So I'm okay. I actually kind of hope that it goes back to 210 because it fills me at 209.99 on Friday. I'll do what I usually do, which is sell calls against it, generate extra premium. But all in all, I think today was a good opportunity to buy some Tesla, to get a hold of some of these shares at a discounted price. Pretty steep drop in one day. We'll see if it gets below 210 by next Friday, which is where my strikes are at. So that was your first piece. Chris says, I like to have a robot work in the shop overnight. I think we all would like to have robots just kind of do everything overnight and do things for us, get stuff done that I don't want to do. I certainly have a lot of tasks. Everybody here, every one of you can name different things. You go, I hate doing this, I hate doing this, and I hate doing this. And you just say, robot, do those things. Absolutely. Let's do it. Let's get it done. And then in that time period, I would actually have more time for other things. I would have more time to, do things that I enjoy. So let's jump to our second piece, which is the kickoff to earnings season. obviously earnings season is critical. It's a sense of how these companies have done over the last quarter. We get an assessment of where their areas of strength and weakness are, and also what their thoughts and analysts anticipate for the coming quarter. Now, I always love this week because today is the official kickoff to earnings season. As you can see here, where's my earnings calendar? You had some of the bigger names in finance and banking report today. JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, BlackRock, Bank of New York, Mellon, right? Those are some heavy hitters. We've got a lot more next week. Notice they all beat handily. JP Morgan beat by 8.71% on their earnings. Wells Fargo beat by almost 20%. BlackRock was up 9.9% beat on their earnings, all of which had nice positive gains on the day. JP Morgan up 4.4%, Wells Fargo 5.6%. BlackRock up 3.6%. I was surprised to see Bank of New York Mellon down 0.4%. Almost every single company that reported today beat earnings. That's a great start to earnings season, a very positive sign. Now, if we look at what happened in the markets with those financial firms, man, JP Morgan looking fantastic. Coming right back into all-time highs today. You had that 4.44% gain as I had mentioned, so looking good. You had WFC. So Wells Fargo coming right back up into that kind of triple top we had back from June and July, right at about $61. So that's also an interesting stall point for Wells Fargo. But after that, you got a little bit ways to go to get back to these all-time highs. Maybe I can go even longer term to see some more. Yeah, JP Morgan doing great. And, years ago, all my trading friends, we used to call Goldman Sachs government Sachs. Because it seemed like Goldman Sachs had somebody from their company, somebody that was a senior director or on their board, would be infiltrating their way into the Bank of Canada, the Bank of Japan. And be in these very prominent positions on a political level to be pulling the strings for Goldman Sachs, which kind of further bolstered the case of buy Goldman Sachs, right? If they've got all these connections on Capitol Hill and governments or in central banks around the world, then that fraternity of Goldman Sachs employees will do better things for Goldman Sachs. Well, that shifted, and many people believe that today it's BlackRock, that BlackRock is the one that has all those connections and putting all their peoples in prominent places. I'd argue JP Morgan could be on that list as well. You look at what happened with the banking or the financial crisis just a couple years ago when we had Signature and Silicon Valley Bank and First Republic. Who was there speaking with Jerome Powell behind closed doors with Janet Yellen? Janet Yellen, Jerome Powell, Jamie Dimon. And Jamie Dimon stepping up saying, hey, if we need to, we should be doing this and this and this. That's what you guys should be doing, but we'll help out here. We'll help you bail this one out, but we want a good deal. And they got amazing terms on their deal. So yeah, JP Morgan doing very well, and I believe a lot of that, I hate to say it, is because of crony capitalism and their association with extremely high-level officials there, yeah. Oh, man, just crazy. Do the financials lead the economy? I don't know if I would say they necessarily lead the economy, but it can't hurt, right? If banks are doing well, that means they're making money. Typically, that's coming in the form of lending out more money, which is a sign of economic growth. Yes, it could come in the form of fees or trading revenues, depending on what those banks are doing or financial firms are doing. But all in all, yeah, I do think it's a very positive sign. And, going into the tail end here, the fourth quarter of the year, many of us are in that bullish camp. I'm in the bullish camp. I just don't see any real strong reason why we should see weakness in these markets. We'll talk about inflation here in just a second, but all in all, everything seems okay, right? It seems to be going all right. Let's see, what do we got? I got a bunch of chatter back here. Hold on, let's see. You start a robot religion. Chris would have his robot do all kinds of things at his shop. Banks was up to, yeah, so, Michael, that's what we were talking about. Because it's that first day of earnings season, you could go to something like Excel. Well, let's look at the ETFs here, by the way. So you can look at the ETF sectors. This is kind of the stuff I use for my 1% portfolio. Only one of them was down today, and that's consumer discretionary. Everything was up. You had financials up 1.93%. And I'm going to take a little bit of a zoom out here and go to a weekly time frame so you can see a bigger picture. There you go. So your all-time highs, right? Your all-time highs, you've got a beautiful trend, and it just doesn't feel like this wants to stop. So to Margaret's point, we've had an economy and a stock market that looks very similar to this, which just keeps going up and up and up and up and higher highs and higher highs and higher highs. Yeah, I think we can make the argument that financials are the ones driving this, which is why I make such a point of earnings season kickoff. it's great. I thought today was a very good day, at least on paper, for what this market may do over the coming weeks. Now, of course, we're going to have an election coming up here very soon, which is going to be an important one as well, and that could obviously throw some problems into the machine, if you will. I was trying to find the right term there, but yeah, it could cause some problems for the machine. But as it stands now, with financials looking great, you look at a lot of other market components. Here's industrials. That's a sign of economic growth and things are doing good. You have building materials. Sign of things are good, right? You're right near all-time highs, trucking higher and higher and higher. To me, it looks great. And I think financials are a big driver behind that one. So great start to earnings season. Next week, you do have companies like Goldman Sachs. You've got Netflix. You've got a lot of really big names really starting on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday is your major load of earnings for next week. And then our last piece, talk about inflation. And by the way, next week, guys, if you are trading any currencies, trading the Swiss franc, trading the New Zealand dollar, trading the British pound, trading the euro, Canadian dollar, be very careful because they have their inflationary numbers coming out next week as well. I'll put that in the Monday morning must-knows that you guys will see on Sunday night. So it's going to be next week should be a wild one. There's a lot of really good stuff happening next week. So let's talk about inflation. Going back to our CPI and PPI numbers here for the U.S., we're expecting our CPI to drop from 0.2 to 0.1. It stayed right where it's at 0.2, which I think some people were disappointed about. But I'll be honest, if we stay at 0.2, I think all will be fine. I think we'll be okay if we stay at 0.2%. That's where we ended up today, just a little bit higher than expectations, not too shabby. Now, what that did is that gives us a year-over-year CPI, which has now increased. It's gone from the expectations where we're going to drop to 2.3%. It's 2.4%. So in theory, we're still dropping. Went from 2.5 to 2.4, but just the market expected to be slightly lower. Now, I'm a believer that the CPI numbers are going to be impacted by the PPI numbers. I believe that the producers are the ones making the goods and services, and when we get a tariff or some other issue that causes those goods and services to be higher, like a longshoreman strike and I have to pay extra fees for my port and storage and shipping and transfer, that's going to get passed on to the end consumer, right? No business is going to swallow all those costs and be like, oh, that's on us. No, we're passing that on to the consumer. So I think that PPI is a good representation of what may be coming with CPI. So what happened with PPI today? Well, this was real good. They expected it to go from 0.2 to 0.1. In actuality, we came out at 0. Meaning we have not increased the price of goods and services. That's not deflationary. That just means that inflation is not moving up for this most recent month. That's a pretty good sign. You can see that back here in June, we were actually negative, but the last 3 have been above 0. All in all, good. I'd like to see them stay between 0.1 and between 0 and 0.2 on that PPI numbers or CPI. All in all, I think this is really good. Now, what does this mean? In my opinion, it means that these markets are still performing well. If CPI and PPI numbers can stay lower, then the Fed can think more about cutting rates. But they really don't need to, right? They don't need to be cutting rates anymore. If all the other metrics we're looking at look good, we'll talk about retail sales. Retail sales happen next week. If those retail sales numbers look nice and rosy, the Fed really should just pause and hold right where we're at, right? If everything looks smooth, don't change anything and rock the boat. Now, as some of you mentioned on the show a couple days ago, it takes time for that 50 basis point cut we saw last month to get into the system. It's going to take some time, so we'll see how that ultimately transpires. Let's see. John, what'd you say? We had a nice pullback in crypto yesterday that allowed me to buy some more Bitcoin. I did as well. I didn't buy much. I bought a few $100s worth of Bitcoin. That one didn't age well. I was like, I don't think you guys are going to see Bitcoin get below 60 ever again. And sure enough, 3 days later, boom, we got below 60,000. So, but we just tiptoed below it. Had a really nice move up today. It was up 5.87%. So yes, great buying opportunity. Again, I didn't think we would get below 60. I thought that would be the last time we'd ever see 60. Well, we got that little bit of a head fake there and just screamed out of it today. Great. I really am still bullish. Obviously, I do think that we'll get back up to that 67,000 mark. And once we get above that and maybe break this down-sloping trend line, then I think the real fireworks will start. Again, I think this all ties into nicely with the election. I think the election is going to be a big factor here, especially because Trump is saying, hey, I am pro-Bitcoin. he said, one of the things that'll be interesting is the first day of office, he says he's going to take the stuff that's with the U.S. Marshal Service and he's going to move that into the Treasury's Strategic Reserve Fund, which means we're keeping it on the government's books. What's noteworthy there is when he made that statement, they actually moved a lot of that Bitcoin onto exchanges, which made people feel like they were going to sell it, but they haven't sold it yet. So not quite sure what's going to happen there with that one, but definitely showing that Trump is pro-Bitcoin. And I always pronounce the name right. I even got an email from Ed up in San Jose because he's like, you pronounced the damn name wrong. I always say Kamala. Well, it's not Kamala. I know that. It's Kamala. So, yeah. I'll get it right someday. It's hard to train myself to... Once I say something wrong, it's hard to unteach yourself how to say something. I've always called her Kamala, but it's Kamala. I got it. Why MicroStrategy increase the price 3 times Bitcoin? Leverage. I think leverage is a main reason. I think a lot of people look at MicroStrategy as a leveraged Bitcoin ETF. And that is, part of the reason why you're seeing such nice moves up is because Bitcoin has a nice pop. You get Mr. Master, right? Looking absolutely fantastic. And remember, MicroStrategy has borrowed billions of dollars worth of money. They're paying people, 5.5% to 6.5%, I think, of what their bond yields are at. So they sold billions of dollars worth of bonds at 5.5% to 6.5%, and basically borrowing it, let's just say 6%, and you're earning 138% rate of return. Is the historical average since day one of Bitcoin is 138, I believe, annual. So, I think Michael Saylor is brilliant. He's like, wait a minute. I see on this chart, this thing moves up about 100. At the time, it was about 150%. So you got about 138 now percent per year. I borrow at 6, make 138. So I'll net myself 132. Done. Sign me up all day long. I'll buy as much as I can. And that's what he's been doing. So it's been a very interesting project here, in my opinion, with MicroStrategy. But here you are on MicroStrategy at all-time highs today. And I think this is going to continue to surge. For those who are bullish on Bitcoin, yeah, MSTR, buy them calls. Could be much more upside potential here. Tip the hat to your 49ers last night. Thanks, John. It was a nerve-wracking game, to be sure. I was a little bit nervous, especially after what happened with the Arizona Cardinals on Sunday. That was just embarrassing to lose that game. But let's see. When are the election results out? Robert, that's a great question. Who knows? We'll probably get a couple of days where it's like, all these polls still coming in. I mentioned the other day, I really I hope it's not close, because I don't want to have this argument that, oh, well, it was stolen, it was rigged, and this side that, and that side this, and I don't care. I would just want it to be over with, and whoever is president, and then I'll move forward. Regardless of who it is, whether I like them or not, doesn't matter. I'm just going to continue to trade and do the things I can to secure my financial future and not get irritated or upset or hate somebody because so-and-so is president. It doesn't make a difference to me. So it'll probably be a few days after the election. I think we'll get the final results in hopefully without any issues, any uprising. Big F says Waltz gets it wrong all the time. Margaret, I don't own MicroStrategy. No, I just own outright Bitcoin without leverage. I'm all cash. I'm a cash Bitcoin guy. Added more to my position, and I'll keep adding. Every time I teach the crypto program, I generally go in and buy $100 worth of Bitcoin just as an example. So I'm on a monthly schedule where I'm adding at least $100 a month, but it's much less than what it was back in 2017. I was buying $500 a week of Bitcoin, $500 of Litecoin, and $500 of Ethereum. That's what got me started in it. So it was a good time back then. So inflation, guys, is a biggie. For the U.S., actually looks fairly decent, right? I think our numbers look good. Next week, we'll talk more about it when we get there, but next week we do have, I mentioned, like 6 countries coming out with either CPI or PPI data, and that could be a pretty influential piece if you're trading those cryptocurrency or trading those currencies at all. Margaret says 16% up today versus 5.8 for Bitcoin today. Yeah. Again, the leverage, and I think that a lot of people like MicroStrategy as that proxy because it's been publicly traded for a while, whereas I think people are still nervous about like IBIT and BITO and these different ETFs out there that represent buying into Bitcoin. So, okay, those were it's that earnings season I want to talk about. At the Robo event, we talked about that one, and inflation. So that's pretty much it for me. The other pieces for me, trades were made today, none. All I did today was sell puts on Tesla, and I was looking at maybe selling some more puts on Boeing. So as you guys know, I have the Boeing position here, which 140 strikes is where I'm at. And those were sold, I think, back here on the 13th of September. And I went for the 18th of October. It's going to be real close. I may actually end up getting those shares of Boeing put to my account. In the after hours, they're down a little bit more. Kamala. Is that what it is? Brian, I promise, and for Ed up in San Jose, I'll practice my pronunciation of her name this week, and I won't get it right. We'll start on Monday fresh. I got to make sure. I've heard her say her name. I watch interviews with her, so I've heard her say her name. I should know it by now, but I don't know. I can do many random tasks. Apparently pronouncing her name is just one that will elude me for a while. But anyway, that Boeing right now is at 148. I've got $8 left for it to fall by next Friday. Again, I'm happy, absolutely happy owning Boeing at 140. Told you guys that a while back, and I still stand by it. I'm fine to own a 140. If it gets there, cool. I'll be fine to buy Boeing at 140, and I'll sell calls against it to continue lowering my cost basis. But that's the one. And then I still have the Rivian, of course. Rivian did okay today. I like the way it moved up today. 2.43% was a nice little addition, especially given the quantity of shares I'm holding. As you know, I sold the 11.50 calls against my position and the $12 calls against my position. Those will probably expire worthless, barring some crazy move up, and that would be great. You're not worried about Boeing's junk rating? I'll be honest, it's not like it's keeping me awake at night. If I'd sold, let's say, 100 put contracts, then I might be a little nervous. I'm not that big. I'm in the single digits on this one. So I'm not too concerned about it. I think that it's certainly a possibility, but I have this gut feeling, which I think several others here have, which is Boeing is just too political. It's too connected. It's too important. So I just feel like there's going to be pressure to not downgrade their rating to junk. Yes, they're doing layoffs. Understandable, right? Which, let's be honest, you guys tell me, are layoffs good or are they bad for a company? So if I'm an employer, you guys type in the chat, let me know. If I'm an employer and I make layoffs, are they good or are they bad? And it really boils down, in my opinion, while I let you guys type in your answers, it boils down to what phase the company is in, right? If it's to the point that this company is like in dire straits and it's like it's just necessary because you got no money coming in, then that's a bad thing. In Boeing's case, I don't believe that's the situation. I believe that the layoffs are an opportunity for Boeing to go through and say, we have thousands of employees. I'm going to real quickly pull up how many employees Boeing has. Every time I try to type, I always mess it up. Employees does Boeing. I'm like, what, 100,000? 170,000 employees. So they have a lot of proverbial fat at the company. There's a lot of people that could leave. And that's 10%. So they're laying off 10% of their workforce. I assure you that they're not laying off the people who are knocking out of the park, strong producers and of value. They're probably getting away or cutting people who are mailing it in. Maybe these remote workers that the bosses see, you just ain't doing a damn thing. They can see when they log in. They're golfing all day long. I actually think that this is better for Boeing in the long run to get rid of 10% of your workforce. Why? Because you're trimming the stuff that's not good. I think when a company that size, especially when you're in an economic cycle like we've been in, which is extreme growth, right? When it's an extreme growth environment, you bring on as many employees as possible to handle all the demand for your business, right? Load it up. And then if things start to slow down, well, you get rid of all the fluff, the stuff you don't need anymore. And I think that's where Boeing's at. So I actually look at it as a good thing. Market says quality of the planes is bad. Delayed one of their planes coming to market. Yeah, I agree. I don't know if that would say their quality of the planes are bad. I think that they're making some mistakes on it, and I think that they'll fix those errors. Boeing, at this point, better realize that. Otherwise, they will be in serious trouble. So fix those little mistakes, get back on track. You've got the government-favored contracts. It should be fine over time. So not so worried about them getting downgraded to junk. If it does happen, we'll do a little bit of damage assessment when what happens, but I'm not so sure. Big Ed says, as long as there is U.S. government, Boeing will be around. I'm in agreement. I think so. They're just too too historical, too influential, too powerful, and too entrenched in our government and our economy. And I believe, you talk about a financial firm being too big to fail. Well, there's hundreds and hundreds of other financial firms. So I always hated that term. If you look at something that's a unique item, where there's not much competition, and we have a juggernaut that's a world supplier of something, then I would say it's too big to fail. Boeing, in my opinion, would be one of those. That's too big to let go away. You can't afford to have this employer leave. Also, the producer of aircraft for the United States and weapons and defense stuff. So, yeah, I think it's good. You have a downside price target? Well, I mean, you know what I'm going to do there. I'm going to go to the longer-term charts here. So you got Boeing. And I'll go to that. I'll just pull the weekly, just 'cause I think that'll probably be a little bit better. And that's the first point I have was that 140, and that's just because you got an RBR here. The next stop for me is going to be 120. Now, obviously, I don't want to buy it at 140 and hold it all the way to 120. I'll probably put some defensive pieces on here, which may, if we get below that lower point, which that lower point for me is 140.20. So if we get down below 140, then I'll probably put as a protective piece here, which is, almost like doing a spread trade. I just vote for, well, no more politics, Brian. Vote for who you like. It's not important to you or me or to others. You vote for who you think's going to do the best job, period. Don't try to sell anybody in this room. All right, let's see. For Luna D for Monday. Let me go into what's cooking out there, and then I have to wrap up here. I've got a meeting that's supposed to start at 3. Which means I got to get out of here early. So the 14th, you don't really have anything exciting going on for the U.S. markets. You can see you got some FOMC members speaking, but that's pretty much it, so no biggie there. You also have, on the earnings side, nothing. It's kind of goose eggs for earnings, so nothing to worry about there. It should be a quiet day on Monday, barring any, any comments from Kashkari Weller or Kashkari Weller from the FOMC. That said, things will start to pick up on Tuesday. We do have a lot of earnings coming out with major financial firms. I think Goldman Sachs is on Tuesday as well. And as far as Monday's show goes, I will be doing a show for the 1000th episode of Trader Merlin. I'm not sure exactly what I will do or who will be my guest. I will spend some time this weekend, see if I can bring on some guests for us just to have a little bit of fun. If there's somebody that you would like to see, email me at tradermerlin@gmail.com and let me know. Go, I'd love to see so-and-so on the program. And I will get to that. So that's going to do it for me, everybody. Let's see. Real quick, now that Michael's sent this question. I get confused with where a company share price should trade at my profit and gets upgraded, which is trading at $45. So, Michael, we talked about this quite a bit. Forget about an upgrade. Forget about a downgrade. They're lies. It's designed to manipulate you. If you want to look at where price should be, you can look at the financials, and if you're a fundamental analyst, you can look at it that way. If you are a technical analyst, which is what I am, I'm more of a technical person, I would look at, you said AFRM. I'm going to bring up your AFRM. I have a feeling I know what the chart looks like. It's going to be nothing but down. Oh, okay. So this is a weekly. Let's go back to the daily here. Not bad, Michael. You've had a lot of others that look pretty bad. This one is starting to get a little glimmer of hope. And look, I'll be honest, I don't care what the earnings are. I don't care if they beat earnings. I don't care if they missed earnings. I'm looking at the sentiment. I'm looking at what people are doing. And if you see here, people are buying these shares. How do I know? Because price is going up. I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's not rocket science. At this point, AFRM is starting to look better and better because it's making higher lows. It's starting to break some higher highs. If we get above that $48 mark, you're not going to challenge your all-time high over there at almost all-time high. No, this most recent pivot high, from December of 2023. And the trend has been great for the last couple of years. So all in all, fine. I would be okay buying this one. I don't care what they're making profit-wise. I don't care about earnings. You're overthinking it. Right? You're overthinking it. Just look at the trend of something and use that as your directional piece. So I'd be fine to buy this one. I don't spend time. It drives me nuts. Bring back Naomi. You guys liked that show yesterday, huh? I spent a bit of time last night going through some of those sites she mentioned. I may actually put up a cheat sheet, like those who want to interested, because there were so many different sites she gave, so many great resources. And I'm hoping that a lot of you went home and just thought about it and just kind of looked around and thought about the privacy. And one of the things, there's a guy I've reached out to who has not responded back to me, and I doubt I'll get him on the program, but I hope I get him. If this guy comes in the program, this will blow your mind, because Naomi is about you doing things and understanding how to protect that privacy. This other gentleman I want to bring on, he's about everything you have in your house that's electronic in any way, shape, or form with a chip or anything is now accessible and manipulatable from anyone with the right device. I mentioned this guy, he can sit out in front of your house and break into your internet in a matter of seconds, even with a complex password. He's got little breakers that will break in your password. He can go into your cameras. He can go into your TVs. He can go into anything that has a camera or microphone. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. That is a much more eye-opening show than what Naomi did yesterday. Naomi was great because it allows us to take steps to be proactive and protect ourselves. The other guy, it's like you got to just understand all of these things. Like I don't have any cameras that are uncovered on any computer in any point of my house because anybody could look at that at any time. So you got your laptop open in your bedroom and you're running around naked out of the shower. Someone could be watching that right now. It should scare everybody. Merlin, is that the guy who has the website to check your email? Yes, that was him. I forgot his name off the top of my head. He's brilliant. Again, he used to be a black hat hacker, which is people that do bad things. And he just said, I want to turn myself into a white hat hacker. And now he's doing good things, and he's doing a lot of education and training. Something Montgomery. Let me see if I can remember. I think it was something Montgomery. And I'll post the link here because you guys should. Really, really good information. What is his name? 1 second. I'm going to bring it up here.
Do you make these, or can you just buy that?
Here's actually one that I made, and they call this a Ponagachi.
Oh, I could sit there and watch this stuff for hours. It is so crazy. Did you get ghosted, trade, fixed? No. Oh, thank you, Big Ab. Thank you. I totally forgot. Let me explain what the hell happened. This is, I'm extremely irritated, and no, they have not fixed this. So, for you futures traders out there, here's the issue. I've traded for 27 years on just about every platform you can imagine. Oh, thank you, Big Ab. Now you got me all fired up. This one is pretty interesting. So I made a trade on Tuesday. I had 2 contracts on, and I went long. I had an entry and I had a stop loss. Everything's fine. So I had a bracket order, and I was doing my show for Ninja Trader conveniently. Right after that show, my computers were off. I was working on something else, so I did not have Ninja Trader's application open, and my trade was stopped out. Cool. Done, right? How many of you think, you can just say yes or no, type in a chat, that if you have a bracket order and your stop loss or your target gets hit, that the other side of that trade is canceled? That's the purpose of a bracket order, right? Would you say yes, it should be canceled? So I was, no problem. I even told you guys on Tuesday, I had a $200 loss, big deal, whatever. Didn't bother me. Made up for it the next day. However, next day I traded on a different account. On Wednesday, I looked at my email, and I got an email from Ninja Trader that said that I was margined out. I'm like, what? Margined out? I have no trades. I didn't even log into my platform for Ninja Trader on Wednesday. There's no login. So I'm like, okay, this is weird. And it was, by the way, it's a $1,300 loss. So I call up their trade desk. I'm like, you gotta explain something to me, man. I got $1,300 missing. Did someone hack my account? And he's digging through, and he goes, oh no, it was on your end. I'm like, excuse me? What was on my end? He says, oh, well, did you turn your computer off? I said, well, yeah, I mean, that's the purpose of a bracket order, so I can have my trades on and go do something else. He goes, oh, well, your stop loss was on our server, was on the network, was on our server, but the bracket order was not. So when your stop loss got hit, your target stayed in the system. So the next day, we got that huge rally up in my target, which was a sell target, right? I bought low. I was going to sell at my target. Because I had no position open, it said, oh, well, we'll just sell it for you anyway. So it sold me a 2 lot of the S&P futures during that huge market rally on Tuesday. And just kept on going until I was margined out of that position. I'm like, are you kidding me? And he goes, well, that's kind of your fault. I'm like, I need compliance here. That's bull, as Big Eb says, asterisk is here. So the reason I bring this up is it might be in your best interest for anybody here who trades futures to contact your broker and be very specific. Is my bracket order on your server or on my computer? Because what they told me was, oh, it's on your computer. And I'm like, dude, There was one platform in the last 27 years that I remember that did that, and it was disclosed. They made it very clear. When you open that account, your orders are on your machine. So if your machine's off, we can't see your orders. Okay, I get it. NinjaTrader made no communication about that in any way, shape, or form. So I'm hoping that I can get $1,300 back, but good luck on that one, right? Unbelievable mistake. When all the time I thought I was protected. I mean, just drove me nuts. So yeah, thanks, Big Up. That's what happened. It is in your interest, all of you that trade futures. If you use NinjaTrader, which I like the platform, it's cool. If they don't fix this, I'm going to stop using them for sure. But if you're using NinjaTrader, remember, your bracket order is not on the network. It's on your machine. So when I turn my computer off, somehow the stop loss was, I don't get it because the stop loss was in there and the target was in there when I turned my computer off, I guess. But when one of them hits, it doesn't see the other one. It makes no sense whatsoever because my stop loss got hit when the computer was off. So weird. So weird. Anyway, make sure you talk to your brokers. Just understand it's worth a phone call, guys. Where does my bracket order reside? Most are going to keep it on the company will keep it on their server. So when you turn your computer off, everything's sitting on their server. Great. Apparently with NinjaTrader, that is not the case. And that could cost you money. In this case, cost me $1,300. Did they mention this in any of their disclaimers? MT, let's be honest, has anybody here really read the 50 or 60 pages worth of documentation when you open up a brokerage account? I didn't. And they might have thrown it in there, which is why I'm talking to I emailed their compliance department. I'll reach out to them again on Monday. I'm giving them a couple days to think about it. Yeah, talk to the buddies out there. Good luck, CB. They're not going to change the code. Exactly. So I use the free platform. I don't pay for software. My paying days are done. So their download software is free and it's fine. It functions. It works okay. I don't mind it. It's got some clunkiness to it, but that part right there is probably going to get me to stop unless they fix that problem. So yeah, I was really shocked at that. Anyway, thanks, Big Ab. I knew I forgot to get that one on there. All right. That's going to do it for me, everybody. I got to get out of here. Got a meeting coming up. Hope you had a fantastic trading week. Cheers. I hope you do something fun this weekend. I will see you guys Monday for the 1,000th show of this. Hard to believe I'm already at 1,000 shows of this thing. That's almost 1,000 hours of content for you. Hope you've enjoyed it. I will see you guys on Monday. Have a great weekend. If you want a guest or anything on Monday's show, let me know. Email me, tradermerlin@gmail.com. Take care.